What's up, humans? Welcome to a new Psicoactivo. So, today's video, I told you guys that I had something really special for you. My good friend and documentary filmmaker, Ida Cuéllar, he's from Barcelona. He has worked in Hollywood, and his magnum opus so far, because he's not done yet, has been the documentary The Secret of Dr. Grinberg. He won awards for the documentary. He showed it in multiple festivals back in 2021 and in 2022. And the movie currently is being shown in different places around the world. So people are getting to know the story. I first saw this film in 2021, which was one of the main reasons I opened Psicoactivo. Over the last 3 years, I have been developing contacts and relationships with people who are like-minded, who are interested in the studies of consciousness. And along the way, I reached out to Dr. Alex Gomez Marin, who is one of the few scientists who is studying and trying to follow up on Dr. Grinberg's work. And he believes in Dr. Grinberg's work just like I do. He's a theoretical physicist. Alex, who is my friend now, was the one who introduced me to Ida Cuéllar. And since then, Ida and I have been going back and forth. We really have a really nice connection, and we have been bouncing off ideas of each other. And now we are talking about potentially doing a project together. Along the way, he has been keeping some of the material that he wasn't able to put on the film. And it's a lot. It's hours upon hours of material. Initially, I didn't know that he had opened a YouTube channel where he's dropping everything. I knew like 2 or 3 days later. He was the one who told me. And he didn't even say that it was his channel. He just sent me the first video. And I was like, what the hell is this? And then I asked him, is this your channel? He's like, yeah. And it didn't have his name. The channel originally was named Ritual Studios or Ritual Studio. And I told him, Ida, why don't you just use your name for the channel? I mean, you are Ida Cuéllar. And he followed my advice. Now his channel is called Ida Cuéllar. And he's dropped like 3 or 4 videos that have done really well. And one of the most recent ones is an interesting account of shaman from Jalapa, Veracruz, Don Rodolfo, who was studied by one of Jacobo Grinberg's students and collaborators. Her name is Amira Valle. And Ida spoke to Amira about Don Rodolfo. She does a comparison between the brain of a normal person and the brain of Don Rodolfo. And you can tell how different these brains work and how coherent Don Rodolfo's brain is, depending on his state of mind and his state of emotion at the time. When he is relaxed, he has high levels of coherence, but when he's excited, he has unusual levels of coherence, which is something that regular folk like us don't have. But, and this is the reason I decided to do this video, I found a comparison that I think it's interesting to pull from, a thread, if you will. Chris Bledsoe, the most famous experiencer in modern history, you could say, he was on a Skinwalker Ranch episode where they plot him to some brain scan equipment, and they asked him to try and communicate with Orbs, as he usually does. The similarities between Don Rodolfo's brain scans and Chris Bledsoe's brain scans are staggering to me. And that tells me one thing. First of all, I want to clarify something. Chris Bledsoe grew up in a religious household, a Christian household. So he interprets the phenomenon based upon this background that he has. I'm not saying it's wrong. It is not. I think that each person experiences and interprets the phenomenon differently based on their background. I've talked about this before when I told you guys that I don't agree with Lou Elizondo's and Jim Semivan's view of the phenomenon as something potentially dangerous for humanity. I know that there have been multiple concerning reports of alien abductions, implants found in their bodies, and flat out encounters that have been terrifying for people, that have left them with severe PTSD. I am not minimizing any of that. I know how important it is. I know that we need to address it, and I can only hope that you guys can see that I am trying to address it, but I still think the same way. I think that based on how you approach the phenomenon, both mentally and emotionally, is the way that the phenomenon will respond to you. There's no way for me to prove this at the moment, but this is something that I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I will be proved wrong in the future. Maybe some of you who have had experiences do not agree with me, and that's fine. I respect your opinion, and I respect your experience most of all. Again, I am not minimizing any of it, but it is very telling to me that Mr. Bledsoe, his personality has always been like very mellow, and you can tell by the way he speaks and the way he addresses people in a very respectful manner. You can tell the kind of person that he is, and I think that the phenomenon presented itself to him like that due to how he leads his life and how he responds to adversity, and and all I'm saying is that the phenomenon has been contacting people and having interactions with people for millennia. You can tell by the way Jacobo Grinberg talks about the Olmec culture and how Amira Valle talks about Don Rodolfo from Jalapa, Veracruz. Grinberg has a really interesting take on the way that lineages started growing within the Olmec culture and how the conquistadors killed most of these lineages, but some still prevail and live today. Some still have these powers. I have someone in my family, a couple of people, who went that way, and the way of doing temazcales and experiencing healing powers through psychedelic experiences, and not just psychedelic experiences, but the temazcal is like a sauna where your mind goes to a different place regardless of whether you took any psychedelics or not. It still happens, and they do both. They don't just do psychedelics. And there are people who come out with a different outlook of life. It is kind of like therapy, and it's one of my aunts who performs this with one of her daughters and her husband, and they do conduct temazcales quite often down in the Nayarit area near Puerto Vallarta. And I don't think we have a lineage of shamans in the family, but she did go through that route and she did become one of these shamans. So that tells me one thing, that the lineages, I think that they existed and they were more prone and powerful in the shamanistic traditions, but I do not think that these powers or these abilities are exclusive to these lineages. I think that they can be honed by anybody, but they only take way longer time to manifest them because they don't have that predisposition within their lineage as others did or do. But I think that Chris Bledsoe is a good example too. I don't know if he has any Native American blood in him. Probably he does. And probably that also influences the way in which he experiences the phenomenon. But it is very interesting to make this correlation. I am going to leave you with this video of Amira Valle and Jacobo Grinberg talking about the shamanistic traditions. Here it is.
The oldest were probably, although we do not know, probably the Olmecs. Then there were people within the Olmecs and later the Toltecs who began to stand out for their power, for their experience, for their knowledge, and they were the teachers of new disciples, who in turn were teachers of new disciples. Then a chain was created, master, disciple, and what was called lineage was created. Then most of the lineages that existed were destroyed by the conquerors. Most of the shamans were killed, but there were some, the most powerful ones, that were able to survive. Then they taught it to disciples until the lineages still reach our days.
The Olmecs were the first culture in Mexico, and in Olmec sculptures, for example, we can already see characters meditating. That is, in many Mayan areas, for example, you see characters meditating, which means that it was something that was practiced here millennia ago. And all these, of course, were the men of power, the shamans of the people who have inherited their knowledge for generations. The Dalai Lama, in 1994, held a congress with neurophysiologists to try to understand what was happening in the brain during meditation. So Jacobo was very much in contact with all these scientists and with the Dalai Lama, and he also started to work with what he knew, which were the shamans. Don Rodolfo was a healer, that is, he cured people. As there are many shamans in Mexico, he lived in Xalapa, and then he was very well known because he was very powerful. Different individuals of different ages were recorded individuals of the same age as Don Rodolfo. So this, for example, is the brain of an individual of the same age as Don Rodolfo. Coherence is represented by the pink and red dots. So at high frequencies there is very little coherence, since their activity was more coherent at low frequencies, that is, in concrete aspects of reality. What I was explaining, very subtle aspects of reality require very high frequencies, and the activity is very low in an ordinary individual. While in a state of relaxation, that is, in a state of wakefulness, Don Rodolfo's brain had a great coherence in high frequencies, but in a state of ecstasy the coherence was much higher than in a normal state. What does this mean? That his brain is functioning as a unit, that is, as a concentrated laser beam, and also in a high coherence, that is, in very, very subtle aspects that we cannot perceive, very abstract aspects of reality. And so this is where he can heal. Why? Because it is interacting with aspects that would involve the energy body, the emotions, everything. And so, why can't we perceive those realities? Because our brain does not function at those frequencies. If our brain functions at these frequencies, we could perceive other aspects of reality that we do not normally perceive. And this is what shamans do. Well, in the particular case that I worked with Don Rodolfo, that is what Don Rodolfo did.
That is the fact that a shaman can capture other dimensions.
Exactly.
It's because they have high coherence in their brain.
Exactly. Because he has a more sophisticated machinery than ours, let's say, a more refined machinery that can pick up frequencies that we cannot pick up, and he can connect with those energetic levels or with those frequency levels, and when connecting he can interact with those realities.
And that is what he demonstrated?
And that is what we demonstrated in the experiments we did with Don Rodolfo.
Okay, I'm going to try and find the video of Bledsoe, but I don't know if I could get in trouble with copyright strikes. If I do, I won't include it. So this is the similarity that I found between the MRI brain scans Don Rodolfo has to the ones Chris Bledsoe has. Do you see the same similarity? Do you see how when Chris is slightly more relaxed is when he is communicating with these orbs? That's interesting, right? Which is coincidentally the same type of state of mind Don Rodolfo uses to heal people. What does this mean? Does this mean that anybody can do what Chris Bledsoe does? Or Does this mean that anybody can reach the levels of a shaman like Don Rodolfo or Pachita? Pachita was a whole other level, because that woman materialized stuff, allegedly. She did surgeries that today cannot be replicated, allegedly. And I don't know. I think Chris Bledsoe also has some accounts of alleged healing that he performed on others. And he also claims that the phenomenon healed him from Crohn's disease, which is one of the most terrifying diseases you can imagine. You can't leave the bathroom. That's horrible. And he claims that the phenomenon cured him. And there are like other aspects of his experiencer level where he cures people just by standing next to them and touching them. And so yeah, I want you guys to tell me, what do you make of this? Do you think we could have something similar to the abilities or experiencer level Chris Bledsoe has, or Don Rodolfo? Do you think it's possible for us to reach that level at some point in our lives? What would it take for us to awaken that part of our brains? I have been saying that near-death experiences and psychedelic experiences and other types of experiences with orbs or with the phenomenon have the capacity to activate these parts of the brain, the basal ganglia, the caudate putamen, the caudate nucleus. That's what I think. I don't know if it's real. I would go back to Dr. Gary Nolan, see what he has to say about that. I think he's onto something. I think we are onto something. But I do see these correlations. I hope that people like Dr. Gary Nolan can see them too. And we can work together to let the people know what they might be capable of doing. Also, it would be nice if we could find a different way to awaken this part of the brain without the need of anything traumatic. I mean, psychedelic experiences can be pretty traumatic. Ego deaths are very traumatic. Near-death experiences are very traumatic. And obviously, experiences with the phenomenon are very traumatic. So, does it need to be trauma necessarily? God, I hope not. There must be another way. Maybe meditation. But meditation takes such a long time to get there. Some people spend their whole lives and they only get there momentarily. It would be nice if we could find a way to stay there and use these hidden abilities for humanity's benefit and the world's benefits. I don't know. Let me know what you think. It's an interesting topic for sure. I can only hope that you guys do some digging. I really love that you guys are awakening this researcher spirit within you by watching these videos. I encourage you to keep doing that. I happen to think that we are all researchers deep inside, and we just need that little nudge so we can start our own research and share it between us. If you find information that can help us resolve these mysteries, it is your responsibility to share them, not to keep them. So if you find it within yourself to do your own research by watching my videos, I applaud you for it. But I also tell you, share it with everybody, not just me. If you want to help me because I already have a channel and you think this is important to share for the world, I will gladly share it if I find it compelling, obviously. And if there's some evidence that backs it up, even better. But if you want to do it on your own and open your own channel, please go ahead and let me know. I will obviously support it because we need to have this sense of wonder within us, but we need to awaken it because we are living in difficult times, people. And we all need to be on board of this sense of wonder Because if it's not gonna be us as a population, we already know that the world's governments and the powers that be don't want us having this information and don't want us getting out of their status quo. So we have to take responsibility in our hands, and we have to start sharing and communicating with each other and get to the bottom of this, get to the truth. Now, I'm not just talking about the phenomenon. I'm talking about everything. Ancient history, occult science, the phenomenon itself, consciousness. It is all connected. Why do you think that there is record of these scientists doing these summits since 1882, talking about all of this in the same setting? Because it's all connected. So let's get on it. Let's start researching together, and that will get us faster to the goal. So let's do it. Okay? If you like the content you see, like, share, comment, subscribe. I'm going to leave you guys a few links in the description so you can support my work. We're about to hit 5,000 subscribers. You guys can help us get there. And the channel is already monetized, but YouTube still hasn't sent me the pin that I need. So any type of help that you guys can bring our way will be greatly appreciated. And it will be reused for the channel. So I don't plan to use it for myself just yet, because I think that the channel still needs more resources so it can keep growing. I already contacted one of my really good friends, Mike Torres, who is an excellent musician, and he creates scores. And I'm going to start talking to him so we can create a score for the channel, specific for the channel. But that needs funding. So that's one thing that I'm going to use, whatever help I can get from you guys. And as I told you, it's always appreciated. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Keep them coming. Keep the tips coming. My email is in my description of the channel. If you have a tip you want to give me, it's right there. I will respond to every single email that I get. I always do. Comments are getting increasingly more difficult to respond to, but I do react to all of them. So be mindful. I always read your comments. Be respectful too. Okay? So until next time, I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next video. Bye.